to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled.
From the studio gym where excuses never apply.
It's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We have a really important topic today. Some of you may not think it's important, but I can tell you that of all the emails and messages I get, the one that I get most often is about hormone replacement therapy. Where can people get it? Because there are still a lot of doctors out there, I would say the majority of them, who still don't understand the need for HRT, or they're just afraid because they don't understand how to prescribe. They don't want to get themselves in trouble, and they stay away from it. We're going to talk about a simple way for you to find a way to work with a doctor who can help you. If you've been told by your current physician, hey, low testosterone is okay, or you don't need HRT because you're a woman, just get used to the hot flushes, or your physician just says, no, I don't do that, and learn to live with it. We're going to talk about an answer for you today. Before I get started, I want to, of course, thank our title sponsor, All-American Pharmaceutical and EFX Sports. Right now, you can get 6 of the top-selling products absolutely free when you go to superhumanradio.net and click the EFX Sports banner ad and pay $5 and change for shipping. You will get all 6 of the top-selling products right now absolutely free, because Dr. Jeff Galini believes that no one should buy anything until they've tried it, and he lives by his motto, so check it out. I want to introduce to the show Adam Lamb. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good, Carl. Very happy to be here and talk with you today.
So before we get into the discussion at hand, how did you find your way into starting Renew Life RX?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So a little over 10 years ago, I was an amateur bodybuilder, national level bodybuilder. I competed. I was a muscle tech athlete. I went through that process of I'll say, very competitive bodybuilder. In my younger years, my late 20s, and what I realized is it's not sustainable. You can't do that forever. Eventually, early in my years, I did some old pro hormone stuff. I was probably 18, 19, which just goofed my testosterone up. Early mid-20s, I had low testosterone, and there's nothing really to do about it that my doctors were willing to work on. I also want to be a bodybuilder. I made a decision to go that route. And then after a while, though, being in the industry, and I decided to stop bodybuilding and things like that and focus on other things in life. But what I noticed is that what initially got me into is I realized there's a large amount of people that are probably getting poor guidance, meaning that the guidance is with the goal of being a bodybuilder. And some people just maybe wanted to be healthy or maybe want to be deficient. And there wasn't a ton of education out there or a lot of opportunity to find out about, how to treat testosterone. Even some of my best friends were MDs, DOs, and I would talk to them and they're like, look, man, I could probably put you on testosterone, but I don't know what else to do. They didn't understand about, controlling estrogen and monitoring blood and also diving deeper into the hormones to see that even if testosterone's high, there's other things that can be low that could cause you to still have the symptoms due to lack of absorption and things like that for the testosterone in your body being utilized, and so going through that and over the past decade, I started the clinic to be a resource to kind of help bring clients in, to partner them with doctors that would help work with them. And eventually that kind of morphed to where we're at today, where I have about 20 doctors throughout the country that oversee and monitor all our clients. And I've kind of built a name and reputation in the industry through trainers and coaches and folks in that area. It's someone that is an expert in helping to manage the clients and really cares, right? And so we built a the clinic on health first and results second, and that's really worked for us to grow the clinic and take care of a lot of people. And we fast track the process of helping without going to the doctor and hoping your doctor even knows anything about it. Maybe they won't even run the blood test. When the blood tests come back, maybe they tell you they're in the normal range. And at the end of the day, you just kind of, they don't go through your blood work in detail. And a lot of times they're just not what they're experts in. Most doctors are used to treating sick people, not treating people that are healthy, but want to attain a kind of a high functioning lifestyle. And that's 100% what we focus on is, and I speak with folks and say, I'm not the guy that's going to help you get off the couch and stop the 6-pack of beer a night and the pizza twice a week and the Mountain Dew and all that stuff. But if you're the guy that's going to the gym, you're eating pretty, and you just care significantly, but some things aren't adding up, and men and women we work with. But if you're that person, we're the fast track we'll get the blood work done, get you looked at, have the doctor take a look at everything based on your goals, what kind of lifestyle, what the blood results come to, and then put you on a program to help you achieve that. And then we keep you healthy throughout the process. I would say just about every single client I see, their blood work comes in healthy. I've had guys come to me 5 years ago that were like a mess, terrible, liver enzymes, cholesterol, high blood pressure. 5 years later, they're healthier, they're fit, and all their other health and obviously hormone indicators are in a great spot as they've got older, just from paying attention to it and taking our advice and following our protocols.
And so, what you just said is important. I don't want to gloss over this, right? So there are clinics out there that really take a cookie cutter approach. I don't even think they run CBCs. They'll run a testosterone level on a guy, and he could have low testosterone, and they move right away. They just say, okay, here's what you're going to do. We're going to do this much testosterone. We're going to give you an aromatase inhibitor. And I go, wait a minute. How do you even know this person's a high aromatizer? How do you even know? Because there's really good research out there that shows that if you give a guy an aromatase inhibitor when he doesn't need it, it actually blunts fat loss and muscle gains. And so you really have to know. But a lot of people don't want to do that. They're like, oh, yeah, here's what you're going to get. And that's it. Talk about that cookie cutter approach and why that's a big mistake for guys and gals.
Yeah, I think that in the industry, there's some just formats, right? Like if you were to go to the gym and say, I want to work on my chest, there's probably a cookie cutter chest program that someone could give you. But at the end of the day, some of those things might not work as well as the others, right? You might have to focus more on incline over flat, and there's things from developing the chest with flies and, things like that, and cable crossovers, all those kind of different things. And I think that because of lack of education, and also there's lack of process, that in going through this mix is to see, we believe there should be a healthy testosterone to estrogen ratio, and also higher estrogen levels in clients don't necessarily, in men, don't necessarily mean that there's an issue. Because we look at total estrogen and estradiol, because sometimes food, different lifestyle things can lead to a little bit of higher estrogen, and it's not necessarily they're aromatizing. It's just part of how their body holds on to things. So and obviously you have to weigh that against symptoms. If you got a guy who is, let's say, producing, I don't know, above 40, is it picograms a liter that estradiol is measured in? I think so.
Yeah, and so, and guys will be like, I have no symptoms. I have no gynecomastia. I don't have any symptoms. Then just leave them alone, as opposed to go, no, you got to take an aromatase inhibitor because that's how we do it. There's estradiol is just the way early on we looked at testosterone as exclusively a male hormone, and now we know it's really important for women too, thanks to a lot of education. Mm-hmm. Estradiol is
probably the most important.
Yes,
in what I see.
Yes, and estradiol is an important male hormone too. So, for instance, men develop Parkinson's disease like 5-fold more often than women until women go through menopause, and that's because estradiol protects the brain against neurological degradation. And also, like I said a second ago, estradiol is anabolic. We just have to look at cows. They give them trenbolone acetate in a pellet form, which is a non-aromatizing androgens, and then when they add estradiol benzoate, they gain 30 to 40% more muscle weight with the introduction of estradiol. And then we talked about a study back in 2009 or 2010 on this show that showed that they took two different groups of men. One they gave testosterone and an AI, and one they gave testosterone only. And then they did a washout and flipped them. And what they discovered was that when these guys were taking aromatase inhibitors unnecessarily, they lost their muscle gains and they lost the ability to lose fat. So estradiol is not a woman's hormone, and we have to stop that nonsense because we're putting guys at great risk by artificially suppressing that. Would you agree with that statement?
I agree. Yeah, I think that it's just a matter of proper care, proper follow-up. And kind of our motto with the clinic is we want to know how you feel first, and your blood work kind of helps us see beyond the story. So I think a lot of clinics are very focused on where your numbers need to be, but everybody's numbers are different. We have clients that they feel great when their testosterone's at 700. We have clients that don't feel great unless they're in between that 12 to 1500.
Right.
But if their blood work shows they're healthy and they're not having side effects and they feel great, everyone's different. You know, I mean, medication metabolizes in our bodies differently. And people are, you got a 250-pound healthy male and you have a 150-pound healthy male. Having the same dosing and things like that doesn't always work. And I've actually seen it flipped just based on how people metabolize medication in their system and things like that. Our goal, like I said, number one, to keep you healthy. But if you feel great, then we know that we're on the right track. And where you feel great, that's your spot, right? Like if Carl feels great with testosterone's here and this is here and this is here, that's where we want to keep you, not necessarily based on some cookie cutter, got to have you here, got to have you here. And we kind of believe less is more, and especially in the women's case, women come to us and they're taking 5 different things but testosterone. We find that low-dose testosterone cream elevates their testosterone, and guess what? Everything else works out. Estrogen regulates, the TSH goes down, all these other things, and they don't need anything else, right? And so obviously cost-effectively, it makes sense, but just taking less stuff is safer, healthier, just to get you. A woman today is 54 years old. We looked at her blood work this morning. It just came across from the doctor, and her testosterone's at 5. And that's why she doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? It would get the testosterone up, the thyroid function will be better, and so forth. And so that's where we kind of start with some things. Like you said, the less is more. And then as we progress, and we talk to our clients every 2 weeks. So from a follow-up standpoint, I think we do a pretty excellent job of that. And then our scheduled blood work of when we have them get things done. And then there's clients who have been with us for 4 years, and, they're in their sweet spot. We know exactly what to do. We continue with the regular blood work, and everything seems to be moving in the right direction, which is good. So the cookie-cutter approach isn't best, but I think it's just like anything. There's a ton of diet coaches and trainer coaches that, they did a competition, or they found their passion for health and fitness 9 months ago, and now they're an expert. And so I think there's a lot of that still, even in the hormone replacement therapy, is that there's a place to start, but through proper education and, over the course of a decade, we've probably seen 10,000 people's blood work, right? So our expertise doesn't come from theory or forums or what does this the most, or what does that the most. We've seen it, we work with some women in their late 20s. Most men we don't work with until their 30s. But I have clients that are 98. My oldest client's 98 years old, and his doctor, who we work directly with, has said he would be dead if he wasn't on the program because it's helped him. He's gone into the hospital. You go to the hospital with pneumonia at 97 years old. Most people don't come out, and he's come out because his body's stronger. This guy's not cranking the weights and doing all that stuff. He just wants to live longer, and it's helped him, through proper care. So there's all different benefits to it and all different goals with different clients. And we want to achieve those goals. If you want to try to be Mr. Olympia, though, we're probably not the clinic. I usually tell people that up front. But if you want to just have a healthy, optimized lifestyle that to help you accomplish your goals, and especially the effort you're putting in from the food and the training and stuff like that, but just not quite getting there, and your blood work shows the reason why you're not getting there, we're gonna hit home runs with you, because that's what we do.
And what you just said that I also don't want to gloss over is that if you go to the average doctor, he has no problem putting you on statin drugs, anti-anxiety drugs, antidepressant drugs, blood pressure management drugs, glucose management drugs, and all those drugs carry horrible, horrible side effects, and you end up dying from something called polypharmacy. But when you get your hormones straightened out, you don't need any of those drugs. And so the reality is that while the medical orthodoxy, for whatever reason, is slow to embrace HRT, HRT is a much more natural, much more progressive way to manage health span. The effects are much better. Yeah, I mean,
most of my clients don't have primary care physicians. They don't get sick.
Right.
We check their blood. We look at their blood work a couple times a year. Everything's healthy. They don't have any issues. If there is something that pops up that's not in our wheelhouse, we tell them where to go. And if there's something, they get a cold or the flu. But I'll tell you, it's funny. Most of my clients don't get sick because we help, through the proper hormones, and there's other options that we add to those things. Your immune system's high. You're eating healthy. You're feeling good. You're resting better. Like all that stuff comes together. But if your hormones are low and you're of low activity and you're less likely to be strict with some of the things you put in your body, food-wise and fluid-wise, you're going to get sick more often. You know what I mean? And
but also
like
one of the things that we've learned, that I've learned over the past probably 6 years now, is the fact that we now know that the microbiome and hormones in your body have a reciprocal relationship. So I've done shows on oxytocin and how it reverses the aging of muscles. So older guys like me, like I use 5 IUs of oxytocin post-workout. My doctor writes a prescription for it. But what we also don't realize is that there are microbes that increase in proliferation in the gut when oxytocin is high. When oxytocin is low, they kind of die off, and they make room for bad microbes. So when you talk about immune system, the research that's coming out now over the past 5 to 6 years is conclusive. There are gut microbes that proliferate when testosterone levels and estrogen levels are high and disappear. And there are microbes that when insulin is high, they proliferate, and they're the bad ones. They disappear when insulin is low. So what we're learning now is the reason that HRT is so effective at balancing the Th1, Th2 immune system response is because there are beneficial effects on microbial diversity in the stomach, like when you're young, but then it changes as you get older. This is coming forth now. So there's no reason to doubt that getting on HRT isn't going to help your immune system. We know why it does now, because it causes good microbes to thrive and bad microbes to die off. And you don't need probiotics to do that. You just need to make sure your hormones are straightened out.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we're a firm believer in that as well. Just with when you look at, we're doing a lot of studies right now into the stem cell space, and that's probably the next area we're going to roll into potentially in the next 12 months. But in reading a lot of studies of that and communicating with a lot of doctors that are focused in the stem cell space, that you understand that when your hormones are high, and your body will fight off harmful things easier, right? And that's all plays a big role with the hormones. And a doctor we were talking to said, with the stem cells in conjunction with hormone replacement therapy, meaning if you're kind of unhealthy person and you go and get stem cells done, the results are not as great as the doctor said. It's like putting purified, like.
Well, it's
amazing purified water into a rusty can.
The difference
it doesn't work.
If you plant seeds in bad soil, they don't grow, and if they do grow, the plants are very weak. If you plant seeds in fertile soil, so stem cells, I know doctors that are working on stem cell therapies right now that they use growth factors and they make sure that people's hormones are straightened out because they even know that if this is going to succeed, the human terrain must be fertile. We have to take our first commercial break. The website is, it's renewliferx.com. And you can also go to superhumanradio.net and click banner ads there. You can get started by reaching out and setting up a phone call. And the beauty is it doesn't matter where you live, except a couple states, right? There's a couple states that you don't service, right?
We can do all 50 states.
Okay, that's huge.
To get their blood work,
huge. That's huge right there. So no matter where you are, man or woman, if you've been met with discouraging remarks from your current physician or even told that you just don't need HRT, get used to your low hormones because you're aging and that's okay, which is baffling to me. I want to comment on that when we come back. Go to renewliferx.com or go to superhumanradio.net and click one of the banner ads, set up a phone call, and find out how life can change. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Welcome back. Two things that I firmly believe in, no matter what genetic predispositions or epigenetic switches you've turned on or off in your life, there's two things that will benefit you. No matter what, you will fare better. The first is obviously vigorous resistance training and cardio as well, being active. The other one is hormone replacement therapy. I don't care what challenges you have. They will be better handled if you take the steps to normalize and optimize your hormones. And I tell this story, Adam, since 2007. I've been on HRT since 2007. Mm-hmm. I thought myself as a power lifter, and I kind of crashed my endocrine system around 2005. I spent all 2006 trying to regain my testosterone levels with no success. I had terrible anxiety, sleeplessness. I was getting fatter. I felt sick. I was just a horrible mess. And then one day I made the decision. I said to myself, it's not coming back. So I have to get on HRT. And I got on a sensible dose of 250 milligrams of testosterone cypionate a week. And within the first 2 weeks, I felt better than I had ever felt in my life that I could remember, except when I was in my 20s. And the analogy that I developed at that moment in time was I would tell guys when they say to me, well, what do you think about testosterone? I'd say, imagine you live in a warehouse and there are 100 really bright light bulbs that light up the entire warehouse. And every year, just one goes out. So the transition from year to year is really unnoticeable. And then you're 40 years old. And 40 of these lights have gone out. And one afternoon, somebody comes in and replaces all 40 light bulbs, and you go, holy crap, is this how bright it used to be in here? Your life actually looks bright again. Your ability to sleep gets better. Your blood pressure actually goes down instead of up. Misinformation out there. Your prostate is healthier. All the things that they say that you need to be careful for are really non-issues, but more importantly, all of a sudden you have the energy for life again, to court your wife if you're married, to start businesses, to follow through with things. Life becomes exciting again. And that is what HRT did for me, and that's what it does for 99% of the guys out there when they first start back on hormone replacement therapy. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a good point. I have a lot of clients that don't work out. They stay active, right? They might do walks or some runs, or they're not in the gym type guys as much, but they're on therapy because in their late 40s or 50s that these guys have to function. They're executive level, C-level guys and gals that just need to be sharp. They can't have the brain fog. They can't just crawling out of bed. And they get back to flying out of bed, living life with a purpose, having that drive. And like you said, I have a lot of clients that come on board. They're couples, right? Like they're in their late 40s or 50s, and things are kind of blah, and they're not okay with that. They're not okay that they're blah, but they don't know how to fix it, right? They're probably looking at different websites and buying different things on Amazon to try to bring the spice. But the spice is chemically just low in their body, and then we bring that together. I mean, we save marriages, right? And so that has nothing to do with your bench press, going to the gym, or any of that stuff. It just has to do with a higher quality of life, and that is what gets me excited. That is the purpose of what we do, is to just achieve a higher lifestyle in what we do. You know, the investor that we have on here who's going through some massive business growth and things like that, and the reason he came on board and said, I want to partner with you and help grow this thing to the next level, is because he's like, I couldn't have done this without being on this program. He's like, I look back and I think of how I felt prior to meeting you and going through this process with your doctors. He's like, I would have fizzled out. And he's like, I really literally believe that if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had that sharpness, that drive, that hunger. You know, and obviously he's been the best shape he's been in over 10, 12 years in the gym. That's a byproduct of it. To me, that's just a byproduct. Like it's science of when you're on testosterone therapy, your testosterone is going to be higher and you're going to get better results, right? You're going to feel better, those kind of things. But the lifestyle stuff is what really gets me. You know, I'm 38 years old and I stay fit, and I go to the gym to feel good. It's just, you know, something I've done forever. But most importantly, like I want to be around to stay athletic with my son. He's a competitive soccer player, and just be a role model of health. You know, my wife and I both go to the gym regularly to the kids and live long. Like I jokingly, but seriously say I want to live to 150. Modern medicine and stem cells, maybe it'll happen. And so I live my life that way, and I share that with our clients, whether it's, you know, how I eat, how I exercise, how I sleep, vitamins, you know, things like that, and also the hormone replacement therapy.
Well,
this
and
is
so
what I do. You know,
Dr. Dale Bredesen, who has a New York Times bestseller, an Amazon bestseller called "The End of Alzheimer's." He's been on my show. He was originally on my show in 2014 when he finished his first study that was on 20 people. And then he did another study that was on 200 people, and the results of that study became the book. And he's a UCLA trained physician. He was a professor there, and he's still affiliated with the UCLA hospital system. And he can't say he's reversed Alzheimer's because they can't biopsy brains and see what's happened, but they can take images. But all the symptoms of Alzheimer's go away. The forgetfulness, everything related. So his book approaches Alzheimer's without drugs except HRT. Now, there's other things that he shows people to do, like stop eating 3 hours before bed. And it's a lifestyle and resistance exercise and all these things. But one of the things that he does with every single patient is get them on HRT to get their hormones leveled out. Now, you know, it's unfortunate today that a lot of doctors have been scared off of considering HRT for their patients, so they don't even learn about it. But here's a UCLA trained physician who is reversing Alzheimer's, and one of the several things he does, is get guys and gals on HRT and get their sex steroids balanced out. And the reason for that, in my humble opinion, is the prime directive of every species is reproduction. The prime directive of every species, I'm repeating it for a reason, is reproduction. And humans are the same way. And when sex steroids are high, the body repairs itself because it believes that it still can reproduce because it's young. And as these sex hormones start to drop, the body goes, it's time for me to clear off the planet and make room for others who can still reproduce. So it makes perfect sense that returning to youthful
controls a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Returning.
And your brain still, I just came on board, he's like 65 years old, single, very successful, very, very successful guy. And he's like, Adam, he goes, I'm 65. He's like, but dude, I feel 25. He's like, I want to still, he's like, my brain won't accept what time is trying to hand to me. And he said, he goes, I want to feel 100% until the last breath I take on this earth. He's like, I'm not into aging and dying and settling down and those kind of things. He said, I just want to feel awesome all the time. And I get it, because I do too, and,
right.
And I think one thing you touched on is a lot of physicians are afraid to deal with HRT. And there's a couple things out there why. Number one is they're primarily used to treating sick people and giving them medication that's covered with insurance, right? And so a lot of the hormone replacement therapy process is considered somewhat elective by insurance. They don't want to cover it. The doctors don't know how to justify it and some of those things. So that's some of the fear too. And one thing I'm working on with this group is building out this process that helps educate doctors on it. We have over 40 physicians that are clients of ours, because they know that's not where they specialize. They refer a lot of their clients to us. So they say, hey, listen, I'm not an expert in this. Your doctors are. I'm taking my hands off the wheel. I trust you, right? And a lot of guys have been with us for years, and they're not really going to take the time, and potentially they may want to take the time to learn it themselves, but they love the process. They like what they're doing. They send their clients over. Their clients get healthier and probably go to their office less because they are healthier. But I share it with you because it's just some people are better at different things, and we want to help. So if we can help you, and there's an opportunity to go through our process with doing that, whether you're a male, female, you're a physician, or whatever it might be, it's important. And I think one of the most important things too, where we've been successful is, like you mentioned earlier in that initial consultation call, is you're going to work with myself or one of our staff members, and we're just regular people like you. We're not doctors. We're not going to talk. I can't stand when I talk to a medical professional and they start talking about stuff, words and terms I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm glad you went to school.
Yeah, purposefully.
I love that you learned all that stuff, because I can maybe put my faith in you a little bit. But if I don't know what you're saying, you might as well speak a different language. And so what we've really done a good job in over the years is putting this conversation in just two people, whether it's another woman or another guy, and we're just talking about what's going on. Tell me about your life. What are your goals? Like, how do you? And what it does is it pulls a lot of that stuff out, because a lot of people, man, they get in the doctor's office and they're sitting there, and it's like you're on trial, right? What are you doing wrong? What are you doing? And people don't loosen up and share a lot of the things that could be fixed, that we can fix. And so we really do a great job, especially in the initial consultation. Let's just get to know each other. Let's just talk. I mean, my clients, I say that they're all friends of mine. I mean, it's amazing. I'm so blessed with a lot of things they've done for me because of what we've been able to do for them, right? And so we invite people into, let's just have that call. And then when the blood work comes in, and the doctor goes through and makes the notes and makes the recommendation and goes through everything, we go through line by line, whether it's relevant to the hormones or relevant to, whether it's a high or low in the indicators. We're going to talk about it, because we want our clients to walk away and say, number one, these guys listen to me. They actually listen to how I feel. Number two, they're thorough, and I understand what they're saying. They explain it to me just like I have a 10-year-old son, and I think of, if I couldn't tell my son about my blood work a little bit and explain it to him, then I'm not doing a good job, right? It's talk about, like, this right here, this represents kidney function. Sometimes it's high because, dad takes a lot of protein and a lot of pre-workout, those kind of things. And being able to explain it to them, so they're like, because I think of the times for me personally when I would go to the doctor and I'd leave and I'm just felt like jaded almost. I'm like, man, I don't feel like I don't feel good about leaving, because I don't know what they said. Everything's normal. And I'm like, I want to know, though. A lot of people are curious. I get crazy questions, and I love them. When people are like, hey, I'm sorry about all the questions. I think if you don't have any questions, then I'm concerned. If you have lots of questions, I love it. It's a conversation. The more educated you are, the more conversation we have, the more we care, the more we know that you care, right? Because if you don't care, you may not follow through on some of the things to get the results. So when we both know that there's a good understanding and care, then people, they trust you. They'll follow what the doctor says, because they know they can tell that you care about the results and then we continue with the follow-up. How are you feeling? How does it look like? What's this? Or this is going on, or this seems to be changing, or, and then we can help troubleshoot that, and we'll and solve those issues. And so we really try to make HRT personal, as opposed to medical in the sense of it still is, but it's a personal thing. You know, we're talking about, hey man, I don't feel good. I'm not attracted to my wife lately. I'm having erectorial issues. I go to the gym and I'm depressed. You know, those are things people have trouble sharing, and we try to create that spot. And it sounds kind of silly and it doesn't sound macho, but being in that place to create an open conversation, to be vulnerable, is the fastest way to solve those problems. And that's what we've highly focused on.
And I want to plug the website again because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that doctors tell people that having low levels of hormones is okay for their age-specific tests.
Part of the aging part.
Yeah. I want to talk about that, and I have some analogies for that. But the website is renewliferx.com. Tell people real quick how the process works. They go there and they set up a phone call, right?
Yep, they'll set up, they'll just fill out their health information, or their contact information, to be contacted. We'll reach out to them. We'll talk to them a little bit about why their conversation, whether maybe they're at a clinic. We have people that go to these TRT clinics that they have to go every week and do other stuff, and it doesn't work for them convenience-wise. But in a quick way, we bring them in. They'll fill out some health history information, pretty detailed health history information. We'll send them out to get blood work. We send them out to get a physical locally with one of our kind of partner physicians to kind of physically see them, check the box, and then we kind of partner from that standpoint to go through, put them on the doctor will go through the blood work, go through the health history, go through the physical, put a program recommendation together with some either kind of mandatories, I say, just meaning some things might be mandatory for health, and then some optional things to look into it to kind of optimize other areas of their health. And then if everything sounds good, we get everything with one of our partner pharmacies shipped out to them, and they get going from there. So we usually put clients on 90-day programs, and we follow up every 2 weeks. Probably usually like pretty often in the beginning, but as things get going, it's not something that you should be messing with every single day. So we don't want clients. A lot of people are like, well, I'm going to change this, or I'm going to change this, or to adjust this, or like one day they had a bad day, so they think it's their hormones are screwed up. Like, hey man, shit happens. We have bad days.
Right. Right.
You got to do it. Or I've got clients who are like, man, last week was terrible. I'm like, what's going on in your house? Oh, my wife's sick, my daughter's sick, my son's sick. Well, dude, you just dodged being sick, so maybe you're a little low, but because you're on therapy, your immune system fought whatever they caught, and you just had a little low week. There's stuff like that happens that sometimes we forget about. We think we need to adjust the hormone. So anyway, yeah, reaching out with the contact information first. We'll schedule a call with you and walk you through the process. And realistically, if we move as fast as you do, and we can have you kind of up and running in 7 to 10 days through our process. Our process is built about service and convenience, and obviously being thorough. But we've put things together to do that all very well together.
RenewLifeRx.com, and also Supreme Radio listeners get a discount, so let them know that you came from here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to address the notion that doctors tell their patients that for your age, you're fine, and what that really means. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're talking with Adam Lamb of RenewLifeRx.com, the place to start. So a lot of doctors, well, first of all, a lot of times you'll go in and get blood work. They won't even test the things that they're supposed to test. Right. Very rarely do they test on their own, like testosterone and stuff like that. But more importantly,
I'll put it this way, in 10 years of doing this, I've never seen a doctor, when people want to get their blood work on their own, we just have them go through us now because it always ends up something short.
Right.
I've never seen them do it. I've actually taken a panel into my old primary care, and this is 8 years ago, and he was like, dude, I don't even know what these are. Like, I know I can tell you that because we're friends. He's like, I don't even know what half this stuff is. He's like, you tell me so I can order it for you. And it's not necessarily their fault. They're just not taught that.
Right. But the other thing that they do is that when they do run testosterone, and let's say the range is 320 to 1200, and being below 320, you're hypogonadal, and you come in at 450. And your doctor says to you, well, age plays a role in this, then that's okay for your age. And I've often wanted to say to those doctors, well, let me ask you a question. Insulin resistance increases with age. Why would you put me on metformin if I'm insulin resistant? Shouldn't I just accept that? Or better yet, how about if my oxygen saturation is low? Why would you put me on albuterol because I'm having problems with my lungs? Isn't that part of aging too? It's interesting what doctors are willing to accept as part of the aging process, but not the other things. And typically they're willing, like I said before, to put you on statin drugs and all these other drugs that carry nasty, nasty side effects. Why don't they say, you know what, for your age, your cholesterol's high, but it's okay. But they'll say that about testosterone. Well, your testosterone's low, but it's okay because of your age.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from being educated about drugs from the drug reps, as opposed, there isn't a drug rep out there pushing hormone replacement therapy. And if there was an army of them, hormone replacement therapy would probably blow up. And I think to your analogy, I use a similar one that I'd say, like, Carl, I'm thinking of hiring you. The range is between 32,000 and 120,000. Which one do you want? Right? No one in the right mind is going to say, well, I'll take the 32,000, right? And it really is, when you think of the lifestyle you can live on $32,000 a year compared to $120,000 a year,
Yeah.
What lifestyle would you prefer?
Right.
And it's the same thing with hormone replacement therapy. If you would prefer, would you want? No, I want to live at the top. Of course you do, because you're going to have a better life. You're going to have more opportunity. You're going to feel better about yourself. All those things, and that's kind of similar to your analogy. It's the same one that I use with clients, so they understand it. And I think, like you said, there's education on going on it, and then I think a lot of the concerns I hear from clients too is, can I come off? How do I come off?
Why?
What happens?
Why?
And that's the whole next step. I think sometimes, I have some clients that do it kind of seasonally. Just in their head, I think they feel like they need, if they can give themselves a timeout, that break, that makes them feel better about themselves. Or just they get the blood work done, they check, they're like, oh, cool, I'm good. I have people that do it, and if it's what works for them and their blood work shows that that's what's healthy for them, we don't object to it. I don't typically go off. I actually use testosterone cream regularly, but there's probably 30 days a year where I might just do like a full detox body break of things, and you might feel a little crummy for a couple of weeks, do a bit of a reset and things like that. It just varies on the individual's blood work, and making sure that
the most I've ever done is I've just lowered I haven't lowered my dose, but instead of doing a weekly injection, I go through periods where I'll do it every 11 days. And so, my testosterone level will absolutely come down. But I would never come off. I have no plans of coming off. And I don't understand why I would. It's so good. It can, like you said, the guy who's in his 90s. I don't understand. I think part of the problem
he's not coming off. He said he'll quit when he dies.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. When I die, then I stop. That's it. Like, why would I take this away that's given me so many benefits? But I do go longer in between injections. I'm actually doing that right now, and I just do it instinctively every now and then. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And there's things, like I said, when you understand your body, your blood work shows things are good. There's different things that can be done, but kind of talking a little bit about, why you would stop. Like, the older you are, I said a client refer his dad over who's like 77, and as you get older, it's muscle wasting, just something like that. Just being able to, I think of like being able to just keep walking longer, right? There's going to come a day, I'm 38 years old, and I've had some leg issues lately, which have hindered me walking. I can't run right now, but it's made me think though, like, there's some days where, man, I just wish I could go for a 1 mile walk, right? And there's going to be days in our lives that we don't think about now because we take a lot of things for granted, that, just getting up and going for a great walk, right? There's going to come a time that your body's not going to let you. Do you want that sooner or later?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want to live 20 years where I have to sit on a couch and I have to get help off the couch, help to the bathroom, then help back to the couch. I'd like to be dead then. I would rather be, jumping off the couch, chasing my wife down, and then going to see my great-grandkid soccer game. You know what I mean? And cheering them on and being that obnoxious great-grandpa. That's the life I want to live, personally. And I believe that hormone replacement therapy is going to help me attain that as life goes on.
Men are much more complex than we thought, right? Back in the day, it used to be just give a guy testosterone, but now we understand that pregnenolone, HCG to maintain testicular size, but also function. The testes produce more than just testosterone.
Well, there's with HCG, it's often overlooked too, and we just see this all the time in blood work, especially for long-term testosterone users, is your SHBG levels will tank. And when those tank, that's the same signs that you have the same symptoms of low testosterone. No erectorial issues, low libido, you don't feel that drive, you start getting the brain fogginess back, and it's a matter of getting those SHBG levels back up to move the testosterone around in the system better. And we see that all the time. That's something that nobody looks at. I mean, they never look at the SHBG level.
And in fact, it's about 1 year in. Most guys about 1 to 1.5 years in, like they start HRT and they're like, I feel amazing. And about a 1.5 year mark, they start noticing maybe a little hair shedding. They don't feel as good. And that's because the testes produce other hormones, especially pregnenolone into progesterone, because progesterone reduces 5-alpha reductase biosynthesis, so it keeps your hair from thinning. But also, as you point out, SHBG is better understood now. It doesn't bind up and inactivate. It's actually still active, and it moves testosterone around in and out of tissue better. So when that...
And DHEA and estrogen. It moves all the sex hormones.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So,
right. So do you guys believe in the protocol like Dr. Chrysler promotes, the 120 IUs a day, or do you do the larger doses of HCG more sporadically?
And to talk about the cookie cutter thing again, we don't have a set thing, right? We don't, but there's usually, like, it depends too, like I said in the client, their LH level when they come over is going to vary on dosing and how often, and also their protocol, how much testosterone are they doing a week, those kind of things. But I would say typically anywhere from, 300 IUs, 300 units, or I guess I'd say 30 units, 300 IUs twice a week,
right?
250 units twice a week, somewhere in that range.
Right.
If people come across work, maybe it's 500 units twice a week. It just varies, right in that range. Nothing too much more aggressive than that or less than that. But there's some clients that don't need it. We have clients on the cream program. The testosterone cream, and we brought somebody, a mutual friend of ours, actually through the process, who's a retired pro bodybuilder. I'm not going to say his name now, but I do have permission to do it. But we switched him over to cream just so he could see it. And we had to lower his dose, and he loves it. He's been on it now for almost 6 months. And his health, his blood work is the best it's been, he said, in 10 years, and he feels great. And the reason I share that is because it's not all just about injections and this and that. And a lot of the times with the clients with the cream, they don't aromatize or don't as much. They also, their LH levels and FSH levels are adversely affected. And so, once again, less is more. You know what I mean? And so, and I just share that, meaning that it's not all one thing. And like when you talk about the cookie cutter thing, that's the stuff that just like I quietly have to hold it in because there's such a range. And when I talk to somebody for the first time, and sometimes they're like, well, I think I need this, this, and this. And I'm like, man, respectfully, how do you know what you need or what, because you read a form or you did? I was like, we've seen thousands and thousands of people's blood work, right? I've had guys come to me with 3,000 estrogen, plenty of times, crazy stuff. I've had guys come, just recently, a client too who came to me that from another clinic, his testosterone was at 1750. He's like, dude, I can't get an erection. I've had no libido. He's like, I feel like shit. He's like, I think the pharmacy that I get my stuff from is making fake stuff. Like that's where his brain was because he just didn't feel like
it's not working.
His SHBG was at 4.5 or something like that. Yeah. And so we got his SHBG up and said, let's do this first. And he's like, poof. And he switched. He left that clinic, came to us. He said, you guys just know what you're doing, Mark. And so he's working with us now. And so, and his blood work he just turned 50 in June. His goal was to be like the healthiest he's been in a long time by June. And we did his blood work a little bit early July after his 50th birthday. His blood work is the best. He pulled up 3 years of past blood work. It's the best it's been. And so, I don't care about the bench press. I don't care about how big you're pulling tape on your biceps. If your cholesterol is the best it's been in 5-10 years, your blood pressure's down, all that stuff, and you feel great, job's done. get back in the gym and eat more meat or something. You know what I mean? Like the other part will come if your body's healthy and functioning right. But that's the stuff that's most important to me. That's the stuff at the end of the day that makes us feel like we have, the best clinic, is because your health indicators are better. I mean, low testosterone is not it's not big science. Go pull 1 ml of testosterone, put it in your shoulder. Guess what? You got high testosterone now. But how about the rest of the stuff? Right? That stuff there. And that's what gives there's a lot of stigma to the testosterone, that where it's so unhealthy and it causes all these, blood pressure, all those health things that you mentioned earlier. It's because it's just not properly looked at. They're not looking at the big picture. They're just zeroing in on something. To me, it's so obvious that like when you're on testosterone, if you feel good, the last thing that we need to look at is testosterone.
Right.
Because we already know. Take this, you'll have high testosterone every single time. You know what I mean? So the rest of the stuff is your body working together. Is it in harmony? Are your hormones in harmony? Are your other health indicators good? Is your blood pressure drop down? Is your cholesterol levels good? Are we understanding your diet? We understand that certain, AI medication can negatively affect your HDL levels, right? And if you're one of those individuals, are we making sure we're providing guidance and maybe supplementation to help that out too? Because that's a big issue. We see guys come in with testosterone and their LH is like 27, 22. I had a guy like the other day, 22. I'm like, dude, grab some avocados. You got to get your HDL up. And so, things like that would be such a stretch for a primary care physician who wasn't super familiar with hormone replacement therapy to think about and test for and understand to correct. And that's why when I go back to, we've seen thousands of people's blood work. There's nothing surprises me. I've seen it all. I've seen women with 1,250 testosterone. I've seen men with, 54 testosterone. We've seen it all. And we've helped fix about all of them. All right. And so that's what gives us the confidence to, bring the clients and really, really expand the clinic, because we got the right people in the right place.
I want to take our last commercial break, and I want to change it up. I want to talk about something that we hadn't planned on talking about, but I just saw this. I didn't realize that you had written a book recently called Better Than the Binge, and you and I are on the same page as it comes to alcohol. I've been talking about alcohol on the show from the standpoint of, I get it, you like the buzz, but don't tell me it's good for you, because if it's good for you, give it to your dog, your cat, and your babies.
And your kids.
Yeah. Alcohol is, we accept the risks and the harm that it does because it gives you a buzz. But you talk about how to beat the social pressure of drinking. I want to talk about your book when we come back. Can you do that?
Awesome. I'd love to.
The website is renewliferx.com. Go there, let them know that Superhuman Radio sent you, and take the phone call, get on track, fix your hormones, live a better life. It's really simple stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm going to change the topic a little bit. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. We know that. It destroys the nervous system. In fact, the way alcohol gives you a buzz, you don't have any alcohol receptors. You don't have an ethanol receptor in your brain. What it does is it attaches itself to one of the GABA receptors. And the way the word works, intoxication, the word toxic is in there. It's toxic to the brain, and it causes this foggy feeling that we associate with having fun. A little bit of mercury will do the same thing to you, believe it or not. But we don't hear anybody telling you to go out and have a little mercury this weekend and have some fun, and pairing your mercury with your meal, that this mercury is good with beef and that one is good with fish. But we do with alcohol, because alcohol has been something that for thousands of years we have embraced. It's a big business, too, billions of dollars. So trying to say anything negative about alcohol is always combated with the research out there that people choose to listen to that says, if you drink a little alcohol, you'll live live longer. And they do these almost epidemiological studies where they ask people questions. People can't remember what they ate yesterday. Oh, how often you drink alcohol? And people
everybody lies about how much alcohol.
Yeah, well, you know what? You over-report what you think is good behavior, underreport what you think is bad behavior. And the reality is that alcohol is not good for you. And if it is good for you, then why wouldn't you give it to your children and give them the leg up on being healthier? So you wrote a book called Better Than the Binge. Talk about it.
Yeah, it's called Better Than the Binge, Overcoming the Social Obligation of Alcohol. And so I was a social drinker in my 20s. I worked in nightclubs and partied. On a personal level, I had a group with a father who was an alcoholic. He kind of left early in my life and eventually actually drank himself to death. And it was always in the back of my mind that even though I knew it wouldn't happen, I never would want to put my kids through what my dad put me and my brother through, just not being around and kind of choosing a substance over his sons. And I kind of told myself in the back of my head that, when he passed away, we knew he would. He retired and he started drinking at 6 o'clock in the morning. That I was like, maybe I'll quit drinking. Alcohol always played a role in my life from, I bartended for 10 years in that space. And I always was a social drinker. And, when in my bodybuilding years, actually, it was a time that I drank the least. I mean, when I'd be I'm going to think of prepping for junior nationals, I didn't have a drop of alcohol for 9 months because I knew one drink can totally pull water from your muscles and all that stuff. It can stop, the protein synthesis and things like that. And that's why I joke with my buddies, the Weekend Warrior guys, that they've been doing what they've been doing for the last 15 years, and they look the same because they can't stop drinking on the weekends. They don't realize, if you want to see some serious results in your body, and you put the time in the diet and you put the time in the gym, but you like to have a couple beers or a few drinks in the weekend or a drink or so a night, pull that out for 30 days and you'll blow your mind. But for me personally, I might have a couple cocktails in the evening or a couple glasses of wine. My wife and I might split a bottle of wine. And I'm very much into, self-improvement and lifestyle improvement. I read a ton of books. I live a pretty healthy lifestyle. Exercising, I'm always focused on where I can be better. And doing kind of my life assessment at the time, there was this alcohol that I couldn't justify it. If you really peel back down and you really, really get honest with yourself, you can't justify alcohol. It's a poison, right? It causes more problems than solutions, right? Especially if you've ever had something where you said something dumb, at a work meeting or you're out somewhere at a wedding or whatever it might be. There's times where alcohol plays a role where you do dumb things that you wouldn't have done without the alcohol. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to just take a shot at not drinking. And I've been drinking since I was a junior in high school, right? So by no means, if I were to die today, the absolute last thing on my list would be, I wish I partied a little bit more. I did plenty of it,
right.
Especially bartending my days. I partied with Kid Rock. I've hung out with celebrity stuff. I've done it all. I'm not worried about that part of my life. I did it. And so I thought, I'm going to pull it out. So I told my wife at the end of the summer, we lived on the lake at the time in Michigan. So we were like, you just get out on the road and you're drinking, you're eating chips and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to do a detox. So 30 days in, and I'm someone who likes a challenge. I was like, I'm going to do it more. And I went through these social engagements. I went on an awesome trip with the Detroit Lions on their plane with the football team, hanging out, 5-star dinners, and I'm ordering the water, and everybody looked at me and just dealing with some of that adversity. I went to Vegas for the Olympia and had a lot of meetings where people are drinking. I wasn't drinking. The first time I've been to Vegas without drinking. And so I went through a lot of that stuff, and going through it, dealing with the uncomfortable situations socially was the hardest part.
Yes.
Right at home, it was no problem. Right.
Well, and because people,
part.
When you choose not to drink, people feel compelled to get you to drink. Not because they think you're going to feel better, but to absolve them of their own guilt, knowing that they shouldn't be drinking.
Yeah, it makes them feel bad. It makes them feel outside. I mean, it's like you took their pants away. I mean, they feel that uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so going through that and dealing with those, I realized that the problem, I didn't even like to drink, but I drink a lot, and there's times I was going on vacation, drink too much, go to concerts, with a group, and we got an Uber, and we're kind of, you drink too much, and the next morning you wake up and you're like, what the hell was I doing? And so, but there comes a time in life too where, and there's a couple different ways to look at this, but I'll continue with the path. So I decided, I got to that 90-day mark, and I was like, what do I do now? And I looked at it, I said, I will never drink again. The people don't realize that the anxiety that's associated with regular alcohol use, and all that stuff in your life, especially if you've had some struggles with it. And so this 90-day mark, I was like, I'll never drink again. And I felt like the most free new person I'd ever felt in my life, because I felt like that was no longer me. Was no longer needed something. And I felt more confident in the sense of, put me in any situation, I don't need a drink. And so I was like, how do I do this? I don't want to be the guy that at every social engagement I'm talking about it. So I'm not Debbie Downer. I still schedule meetings with friends for drinks, and they're like, drinks? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have a nice tea, but you like to have your beer.
Right.
I want to catch up with you. I want to see you. It's not. I don't care about your drinking. But if you care about your drinking, you're concerned, I want to create a safe space to talk about it. And so I wrote the book to walk people through the process, to see it, and also let them understand, like, I get what you might be going through. A business partner with another company of mine, he never drinks. He probably has like 4 beers a year. He doesn't get it. But there's other people that I know that, through business, maybe they're out, doing drinks with clients and things like that they're like, man, I don't want to drink, but I feel like I have to. And so taking them through it. And what's funny is, because I work with a lot of high functioning individuals in the hormone replacement therapy space, I've probably worked with a couple dozen of those clients that found out about my book, and they said, hey man, I want to talk about it. I had a client just yesterday said, dude, I've been 60 days no alcohol. He's like, I can't thank you enough. And so I bring them into, I have like a one-on-one kind of coaching process. I bring these people through a 90-day program, the same thing that I went through. And it's pretty intense, because a lot of these people have type A personalities. And we do some tough love conversations and really dig deep into your character and your confidence and who you are. Because what we want to do is break the attachment to alcohol. If I can make you really, really aware of your personal relationship with alcohol, if it's bad, you're going to run from it. Some people don't have a bad relationship with alcohol. Some people do. And so the goal of the book is really just to raise that self-awareness around the relationship with alcohol. Is alcohol ever potentially a problem in your life? If the answer is yes, let's talk about it. I want to help you see it differently, because what we do is we see things as like, that's what everybody else is doing. It's on TV. I mean, every time I see an alcohol commercial on TV, I cringe, because it should be treated like cigarettes, right? You don't see cigarette stuff. You wouldn't give your kid a cigarette. You wouldn't, if you and I just were like sitting down at, the Olympia smoking cigarettes up, people would be like, ew, those guys smoke? It's just as bad.
Yep.
But it's not looked at. It's glamorized as like this fun thing. I saw like this Modelo commercial, and it was showing these 3 like professional athletes, and like, it's not where you're from, it's how you put it, something like that. And I was like, that is absolute garbage. We're putting in, because I know better, right? You know better. But these young kids that might be in high school, and they see this picture of these pro football players, retired pro football player athletes that are drinking Modelo, and like, oh, cool, that's the beer I want to drink this weekend. Those guys can do, and it's just terrible. It's not right.
I didn't drink
so much money.
I didn't drink for 10 years, and I changed my life. I was very sick at the time. I had just turned 40, and I had a heart problem. I was 330 pounds, and I stopped drinking for 10 years in. And then when I went through my divorce, man, I looked so good. I was muscular. I looked a lot younger than I was, and I started dating, and then,
I look 5 years younger than I was.
Well, yeah, I know. And you know what the funny thing is? And I've asked this question on the show. I've actually done a show about this. What is it about the human condition that when we reach whatever the pinnacle is that we consider success, that self-destruction becomes the reward for reaching it? I mean, you look at people, they work their entire lives, they become multimillionaires, and what do? They start pounding down cocaine and drinking every minute of the day. Or you look at the guy, even in another extreme, but more likely, you look at the guy who's worked, he turns 65, he retires, and now he just starts drinking all the time. What is it about reaching the pinnacle that we believe the reward is self-destruction?
Well, I think that because the celebration and alcohol tie together are so tight. When I think of, I stopped, even before I quit drinking, I stopped drinking on my birthday, because I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. How do you celebrate your life by poisoning yourself to like intoxication? Right? So it's like, oh, it's my birthday, we're going out, and it's shots, and I'm like, that makes no sense. How about you go for a great workout, have a super healthy day, contact all the people you love that have been in your life, and this is just like that so you get to know like the person who I actually am. And that's how I think of it. That's how you celebrate life. You don't do it by getting train wreck drunk and throwing up all over yourself, right? But we do that stuff. We do it at weddings. We're celebrating, joining two people together, and we do it in all those kind of situations. I think it's goofy. It's backwards. But I do believe, I'll tell you that I believe in my heart that alcohol is slowly going to move into that cigarette space. There's a generation that's going to they're going to move on. And there's a younger generation that, these younger kids are not drinking. There's a lot that are, but there's still a lot that aren't. They just don't care for it, and whether they're smoking pot or something else, but they see that it doesn't do much for them. And there's so much risk with drinking and driving. There's just so much baggage that goes along with alcohol, and there's zero baggage with no alcohol.
Right.
And that's when the real conversation is. You can't convince me that having alcohol in my life is a good thing.
Right,
it's
better.
impossible.
Yeah, and I've said those exact words. That having alcohol in your life is not better than not having alcohol. In fact, it's better not to have alcohol. The idea that you'll live longer because you drink a glass of wine every day, that's nonsense.
Bullshit. You'll live longer if you have 2 glasses of water a day. It is nonsense. It's total nonsense. There's, and it always comes from the same guy that eats, that drinks a 2-liter.
Well, they're looking for justification. They're going to embrace anything that absolves them of the guilt of doing something that they know they shouldn't be doing. So right now, if you're listening to the podcast, if you go to the Superhuman Radio Network page or my personal page, you will find an opportunity to get a free copy of the book called Better Than the Binge. Now, downloading it is the first step. You may not want to read it right away because you're going out this weekend. You're like, well, I'll read it next week. But you know what? The truth of the matter is you don't need alcohol to have fun. In fact, I sleep like crap when I drink alcohol. I feel crappy the next day when I drink alcohol. I wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety attacks when I drink alcohol. So I know what you're talking about with the anxiety. You know what? But
there's some deep-rooted anxiety that people don't understand about self-worth, about social situations. It's the stuff that we dig into. I'm not a therapist. I'll say that out loud. And I joke and say, I'm not your shrink bro. It was kind of like my saying to people. But as a real person that's gone through these things, it's crazy, the stuff that comes along with it for regular alcohol use. But, my wife, she still has a glass of wine, sometimes 2, almost every night. But it never goes beyond that. It's one of her things. I don't push, if she was like, I'm going to quit drinking. Great. Awesome, honey. And I think it'd be a good choice for her to do. But I'd never push it, just like I don't with friends of mine.
Right.
But if they come to me, I have that safe place, non-judgment, that just, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Let's get, and if you're very serious about wanting to remove alcohol from your life, I can help you. I've helped lots of doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't have a problem. And you know what? God bless them. Go on with yourself. That's it. But if you're someone who's drinking and it is causing you not to feel good after you drink, then you have to ask yourself, why do I do it?
I think a few things. To that point, I say just an easy, inarguable blanket statement. If you ever, not once, twice in a life, but if you ever, meaning like on occasion, you drink to intoxication, you have an alcohol relationship problem, right? And so the other part of it is, for the reason also I created this book, is I wasn't okay with going the AA route. I think it's great for some people. It's an awesome program. I've read the book. I know a lot of friends that have gone through it. It just wasn't for me, and maybe it was my pride. And a lot of people, they look at stop drinking, and they're like, does that mean I have to tell people I'm an alcoholic? Does it mean I have to go to meetings? Does it mean I have to be in recovery? And what's my recovery date? And because I work with a lot of the people in that space, and that's their space, and that's what helps them overcome their challenges to pursue the goal of whether it's sobriety. Like if someone's like, are you sober? I don't say I'm sober, right? It's just like, some people might say, are you a Christian? I'm like, what do you think a Christian should look like?
Right.
Just same thing with sober. Like, what does sober look like? Does that mean I don't have coffee or, so I don't consume alcohol and I don't do illicit drugs, but I just don't like those labels. And I think it's just something that, like, if I was like, I like to use cigarettes as the analogy in this space, because they're very closely tied sometimes with just saying, like, are you a smoker? So if you quit smoking, right, and you don't smoke anymore, you don't have a label. Maybe you're like, you used to smoke, right? On the doctor's thing, you might check like you previously smoked, but you get to release that. But with alcohol, you have to be an alcoholic. You got to be in sobriety. You got to go to these meetings. And some people are like, dude, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to have those labels, because what it can do is it can give you that feeling of low self-esteem and confidence. And so that's why I want to create the book and say, like, listen, man, if you're the only reason you're not stopping alcohol is because you think the only path is you have to label yourself all these things, you don't. I don't, and I didn't. And you don't have to either. You just make the decision to stop. You know, like you could stop if you stopped eating red meat tomorrow. People aren't going to be like, God, Carl, you know, you just made a life choice,
right?
You know, and I have one of my best friends. He's a PETA activist. He's a vegan, and we were talking about it because he struggled with some alcohol, and I'm glad he's actually quit drinking, or like he used to. And I said to him, I'm like, dude, you gave up eating meat and dairy and all that kind of stuff. I was like, that's 100 times harder than giving up alcohol. Alcohol you never need. You don't need it. It's just a choice. Usually by uncomfortable situations you put yourself in, and grabbing the drink over managing the uncomfortable situation is just what people choose. Right. If you choose to say, I'm going to manage that situation, then what it does, it carries on to other parts of your life where you become more confident, where you choose, you know, in a peer pressure situation, or people are ordering dessert at dinner or whatever it might be, you're just more confident saying, nah, not for me. I'm good. Because you've overcome something that, you know, hundreds of millions of people can't by just refusing alcohol.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I love it. It's a great topic. And like I said, going into the HRT in the book, I like to help people. And that's why I created both of those things, to help people on a journey, discover some new stuff about themselves.
Yeah. I want to just plug the website one more time. The website is renewliferx.com. A lot of times getting HRT straightened out mitigates the need for alcohol. I've done shows about that years ago. I'm like 2008. Guys who start drinking because they're self-medicating get on testosterone and get all of their hormones straightened out. And all of a sudden, they just don't have the need for alcohol anymore. And the same is true of women. A lot of women, as they go through menopause, that's when they start drinking. And because they're self-medicating. So your alcohol may be a sign that you need to look at other things. RenewLifeRx.com, as the name implies, you can renew your love and zest for life. So check them out. Let them know that you learned about them here on the show. They are a sponsor of Superhuman Radio. You'll hear more of Adam Lamb and others from the clinic on the show as we move forward. And then, of course, go to the Superhuman Radio Network page or my personal page and download the book, Better Than the Binge, and check it out. Adam, thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah, I love it, man. I hope the listeners found some value and we're able to help some people. And thank you so much for your time, Carl. It's always a blessing to talk to you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, brother. And that's it for today. We'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Tune in then.